Let's try to understand why this phenomenon doesn't make sense. Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing well. I'm the Monio, the interdimensional demon who talks about Castlevania the most on YouTube, and you're on my channel. I really liked the second season of Castlevania Nocturne, but a lot of people didn't like it, and that's normal. However, there are a lot of people who say they're fans of the franchise, but who hate the Netflix series for reasons that I genuinely don't understand, and that don't make sense to me. This is a phenomenon that I saw a lot during the week the new season was released. The main arguments of these people is that the Netflix series are terrible adaptations, because they don't really adapt the specific story of any game, and consequently they wouldn't be faithful adaptations, since they're changing a lot of things and a lot of characters. And I really don't understand all these arguments that follow the line of saying that the series is not faithful to the games, for several reasons. Let's take as an example the first series that Netflix released about Castlevania, which adapts the events of Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, and this game basically has no story. What we have is a concept: Dracula's castle appears and Trevor Belmont goes to face Dracula, and that's basically it. So where exactly is the fidelity that these people want to see in the series? Most Castlevania games, especially the older ones, don't have a story that would allow for an adaptation without adding elements, plots, narrative arcs for the characters, since these things are not in the game's story. I understand you wanting a faithful adaptation of Last of Us, since the game has a cinematic narrative that tells the story very well, and it's natural for you to demand fidelity in this case. But if you're going to make a Super Mario Bros. Movie, what exactly would a faithful adaptation of the game's story look like? Would Mario walk in a straight line and jump through the entire movie? Obviously adaptations have to be made and a lot needs to be added to turn the film into a movie, and in the case of Castlevania, the original material doesn't have enough elements to support a complex narrative that is watchable as a media product, and that's why, in my opinion, demanding total fidelity to the games, without having the freedom to adapt the story, simply doesn't make sense. But the Monio, so if the game doesn't exactly have a story, does that mean the producers of the series can do anything, even if it has no relation to the game? Not exactly. The Castlevania adaptation is faithful in my opinion because it respects the concepts of the original games, and they have always been faithful enough to the spirit of Castlevania. The games in the franchise have always had a horror theme, but it has always been more of a tribute than anything else, since the first games had enemies such as mummies, Frankenstein, zombies, sea monsters. It is a compilation of famous fictional monsters. At the same time, it has a very gothic atmosphere, especially as the games use more advanced hardware. I would say that the Castlevania games are basically a tribute to horror in a Halloween-like way. It is not exactly meant to scare you, but to remind you of the idea of horror. I feel that the Castlevania series took a bit of that, appealing a bit more to gore horror, which does not exactly scare you, but has a tone that is conceptually quite macabre. There are also people who complain that the characters are out of character, since many of their looks have been changed, and their personalities have changed too. Well, regarding the visuals, I would say that they have changed, and I'm glad they have. This is Dracula's original look in the game Dracula's Curse, both in the art and in the game itself. This would be the look if they were faithful to the original game, but thank God the production of the series opted for a more modern look that was more compatible with the aesthetics of the series. So, obviously, there will be changes. These changes are necessary not only in Castlevania, but in any adaptation, not only for the sake of modernization, but to give the series its own identity. And regarding the personality changes, this is another point where I think the complaints don't make sense. Let's take Richter Belmont, the protagonist of the current Netflix series, as an example, who many are complaining about having a personality that is out of character. Can you tell me what Richter's personality is like in the game Symphony of the Night? Is he an outgoing, friendly, fun guy? Or is he more shy? Is he a calm person, or is he the explosive type? You realize that what is shown about the characters in this game is too superficial for you to be able to define their personality in a narrative, and in the absence of this information, it gives the writers the possibility of defining the characters' archetypes, and this is also part of what I already said about the original material not having enough elements to compose a narrative without adaptations being made and elements being added. But the Monio, in the series many characters do things that they don't do in the games. Yes, they do. It's called adaptation. The characters need to have their own arcs that work for them and also make narrative sense with the rest of the story. I find it very ironic that so many people hate these changes, when in my opinion, many of the changes and additions are exactly what make the series so good. Castlevania Nocturne is exploring other deities that are not Christian. In the first season, we saw a bit of African gods, and in the second season, we saw that vampires existed in ancient Egypt. This mythology that they are creating, showing the relationship between vampires and other cultures, is very interesting, something that I have never seen shown in other works with a vampire theme. But what about you? Have you watched Castlevania Nocturne? What did you think of the series? Leave it in the comments, and if you liked the video, subscribe to follow the next content. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.